Tuesday, another real world test. Today, we're doing it on the Oppo Find N2, the new foldy phone from Oppo. And you may have noticed, I'm traveling right now. I'm not in New York City. I'm actually in Las Vegas, and today is the last day of CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. And I've been so busy on this trip that I actually haven't gotten to see the show floor and all of the booths and kind of the fun stuff this entire time. So, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go explore CES while we test out this phone, as usual. But, first things first.
What can I get you?
This one just going to Vietnamese.
Coffee, check. This is a Vietnamese coffee. It's from the place down here called District Donuts that I kind of come to every morning before I go to the convention center. It's fantastic. Vietnamese coffee, by the way, has like a little sweetened condensed milk in it. Sometimes it can be really sweet. This is like perfect, and it's also super strong, which is very necessary for CES. Now, normally I would sit here and we would talk a bit about the phone, but I don't got time because today's the last day of CES, and that means that it closes early today, and I already had a bunch of work I had to do today, so we're running late. So, let's get going.
Made it to the Las Vegas Convention Center, and something happened in the car that's never happened to me before with an Uber. He actually made me take my coffee and put it in a little cooler he had in the trunk, saying that he didn't want any drinks. He never allows them in his car. So, that's a new experience.
Best getaway vehicle ever, right? This is the BMW iVision D, and similar to the BMW iX Flow that we saw last year that used e-ink panels along the car to be able to change from white to black, this year steps it up using e-ink Prism 3 to get 32 different colors. You use a phone to change the 240 different e-ink segments crafted on top of the car to whatever you want. Now, the technology doesn't use much electricity thanks to just like how e-ink works, where it just uses it to change the color, but once it's set, it doesn't need any to stay that color. You'll also notice it cycling through colors before it gets to the one that you pick, and that's again because of how the tech works. Each voltage is specific to each color, so as the voltage changes, it shows the colors in between as the voltage ramps up or down. Now, of course, we probably won't see it anytime soon on a real car, but parts of this might make its way into future vehicles, I've been told. Personally, I'd be super obnoxious with this, and I would just change the color constantly. Wouldn't you? Speaking of colors though, I like the green on this Oppo Find N2 a lot. Now, it's not as large as the Fold when open, and that's sort of a trade-off, I think, between these two styles of foldable phone. But the Find N2 feels a lot more compact, and there's something almost like cute about it after using the Fold 4. I like it. The crease is also less noticeable, but it's definitely still there if you look for it. Frankly though, none of the creases on any of these foldables has ever bothered me, as I just think it's worth the benefit a folding fold brings, and it just doesn't bother me.
Oh, what do you know? My reminder to do my French lesson of the day just popped up, which means it's a good time to talk about today's sponsor, Speakly. Now, one of my New Year's resolutions this year was to finally learn to speak another language, and since two of my close friends speak French,
Je parle en français bientôt parce que sinon ça va mal se passer.
Ouais, franchement, c'est chiant, hein?
I figured I'd give that a go. And I have to say, so far, I love it. Now, Speakly is a language learning app that was created by two polyglots who both speak 7 languages. They launched Speakly after researching thousands of language learners for 6 years and came up with a unique method that teaches you words and sentences based on their relevance in real life. So, you learn what you would actually need to way faster. And I'm all for efficiency. In fact, based on research, this Speakly methodology helps you learn languages 5 times faster than other methods, which means going from 0 to solid speaking skills in around 3 to 4 months with just 30 minutes a day. And personally, those 30 minutes go by quick thanks to a mix of different types of exercises, which you can customize, by the way, and the fact that it kind of feels like I'm playing a game. Now, if you also want to learn a new language this year, use the link below to get a free 7-day trial and a 60% discount should you decide to do the annual subscription after that. So, you have nothing to lose. Go check it out, and thanks again to Speakly for sponsoring this video.
So, it seems Sony made a car. Well, Honda and Sony made a car together. They announced that they would be making a car last year at CES, but this year they revealed a prototype under the name Afeela. It's a four-door sedan that prioritizes autonomous capabilities, turning it into a, quote, moving entertainment space. So, the creators of the Sony PlayStation want to create a moving entertainment space. That checks out. It is also supposed to include integration of external media along the front of the car to allow it to interact with other road users, and necessary information shows up there as well. But it also has 45 cameras and sensors inside and out of the car for safety and security. Now, I'm not sure how good autonomous cars are at the moment, but maybe by the time this comes out, they'll be better. Pre-orders are starting in the first half of 2025, and the first cars will be delivered in North America, apparently in the spring of 2026.
And speaking of Afeela, let's talk a little bit about how I feel about this Oppo Find N2.
So firstly, it feels good. Like, it feels solid and well built. The texture on the back is even nice and won't allow for fingerprints. Not that I care that much about them, but when it feels good from the texture, then that's just kind of a nice side benefit. Now, the haptics on the phone are also surprisingly good. They feel subtle enough to not be jarring, but still strong enough to do their job. The displays on the phone are also both OLED, so they look good, and that's also necessary for the bending one because of the technology. But Oppo also made them both 120 Hz, so animations are smoother and it just helps with the overall snappiness feeling of using the phone. And I think it's nice that they did it on both screens, so that it doesn't feel any different using one over the other. Now also, the hinge feels solid, and it locks into position across the range of motion like most foldables do now. But that's handy for some things that we'll go over in a sec. Now, one thing that doesn't feel that great to me is the fingerprint sensor. Now, I've reset it multiple times, and it just sometimes refuses to recognize my finger, and I have to punch in my PIN code. It's not often, but it's often enough that it's obviously annoyed me. Now, this is one of the most talked about things here at CES. It's the LG Signature OLED M, and it's an impressive 97-inch 4K 120Hz TV, sure, but it's this little box that actually makes it so interesting. This Zero Connect box, as it's called, allows you to plug in 3 different HDMI devices, all 4K 120 capable, by the way, and then the box transmits all of the audio and video to the TV wirelessly. So now you can put this box anywhere within 30 feet of the TV with all of your consoles and cable boxes and whatever else, and hide it away so the TV is just on its own. It works pretty well apparently, and of course there is still a power cable for the TV, so you'll need to do that. We haven't gotten to the point where wireless power transmission is good enough just yet. But hey, as someone who can't stand the look of cables, the best cable management is to get rid of as many of those cables as possible, right? Now, no word on latency for gaming, by the way, but LG says, quote, it works well, end quote. So we'll see though when it comes out at the second half of this year, as well as the undoubtedly insane price I expect it to come with. Now, while we're here though, let's talk about the cameras on this phone. We have an ultra wide, a main, and a 2x telephoto camera. And they're decent, honestly. I will say though, now that we have all of these phones that are cropping the main sensors to get 2x zoom instead of the needing of a separate camera, and that seems to do a pretty good job on most phones, and they also now all have 3x and higher optical zooms for their third camera, which I prefer anyway to 2x, because I don't feel like 2x is that much different from the main camera. It does feel a little bit like having a 2x separate camera is a bit outdated at this point. Now, the nice thing though about a foldable when it comes to the cameras nowadays is the fact that you can use the phone's positionable hinge to make the phone its own tripod and use it to get photos or videos that way as well. And use the outside display even as a viewfinder and use the much better rear cameras to film yourself or take selfies. Both of these are genuinely a useful differentiator functionally that all foldables have with an outer display.
So LG usually does a good booth, right? But I think they're making up this year for last year, where it was basically a bunch of cardboard. Yeah. I mean, they're doing well. This makes up for it. I'll give it to them.
Come on! It not only transforms while moving, like in the old TV show, but it can dance. Have you ever seen a toy with that much dexterity? I haven't. It's on one leg. What? This is the Optimus Prime robot by Robosen, built in collaboration with Hasbro. He is 19 inches tall and fully programmable and interactive via a mobile app, and even has the voice and sounds from the original cartoon in the 80s.
Do not let the Decepticons win the war.
Only downside, he's $999, which is a lot. But I mean, come on, he plays the air guitar. Okay, while I'm feeling nostalgic here with this guy, let's talk about the software on this Oppo Find N2. Firstly, something I don't like. You can't have different inner and outer home screens. So whatever you put on the second panel of the outside home screen automatically is on the right half of the inside display, and vice versa. If you move something on the inside, it automatically changes on the outside. Now, something I really liked about the Fold was that I could make 2 separate home screens, as I use the device very differently when open than when closed. And so I ended up putting different things specifically for those scenarios on those different displays. It's a small thing and not a big deal really, but it's just something I miss a bit when I use this phone. Now, something else that is weird is that because the display is wider than it is tall, apps sometimes assume that that means the phone has been rotated, since most phones are taller than they are wider. So even if auto rotate is off, some apps will just force you to turn the device. Now, this is an issue really with Android and how it handles these things, and again is only specific to certain apps, but I've noticed it enough now, and it's just again a slight annoyance. And it just reminds me of how much Android needs to mature for all of these new form factors we're seeing. Now, one thing you'll notice is that Google Apps works fine on this Chinese version of the device. I just had to go and download the Google Play APK, which is the installation file for the app, and once I did, everything just worked, as it has Google services built into a degree, since unlike Huawei, it isn't banned from using them by the US government. Maybe though, they'll launch a global version at some point, and then it'll come with all of that already set up and better integrated than what we have here, but hey, it works. And lastly, their flexible mode doesn't work with any app that I have installed on this phone other than Zoom, which is useful because you can video conference with it propped up on a table. But again, coming from a Samsung Galaxy Fold 4, they eventually found a way to force apps to move to the top half of the screen. Now they put a useless control panel beneath it, but that's not the point. It does the job of moving the app up, and that allows you to use any app in the folded position on a table way easy.
Okay, ran out of time and basically just got kicked out of the convention center. So, back to the hotel.
Now, what would Vegas be without a fancy meal to end the night? This is Zuma in the Cosmopolitan Hotel, which is where I'm staying this year, and they say it's inspired by a Japanese izakaya restaurant, which is like a Japanese tapas restaurant. So everything is meant to be shared, and it comes out whenever it's ready. They have 3 kitchens, a main one, a sushi counter, and a robata grill. And frankly, it's delicious, but pricey. Speaking of, let's talk about the price on the Oppo Find N2. And that price, with doing some conversions, at least with the ones that I found online, is $1,100 or so. But at the moment, it's China only. So again, maybe we'll see a global version, and again, Google Apps do work on it though, even on this version, so that's nice. Now, battery life is good. I used it all day. I took a lot of photos and videos on it because this is a real world test and on a normal day, and it lasted the day. So that's honestly just pretty impressive. And the truth is, I just love that this phone exists, simply for a different form factor that works well, and proof that there's a lot of nuance to the different form factors. Like, it doesn't have to go all the way one direction, all the way the other. There's little changes that can be made, and it doesn't have to be crazy. And still, it offers customers some more choice. And while I do really like the hardware of this phone, there is something about the software, as I've been mentioning, that I feel like could mature a bit further for use on foldables in general. But considering this is Oppo's, second folding phone, I think they're doing a pretty good job. And I'm interested to see how the next generations go.
Okay, calling it a night. There you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, what felt like a very hectic filming process for this video. Just have a lot of things going on, and it's CES and also trying to make this video at the same time. It's a lot, but I hope you enjoyed it regardless. Let me know what you guys think about this phone and about this video. Always appreciate your feedback in the comments below. Also subscribe and ding the bell next to the word subscribe so you get notified when I do new videos if you haven't already. Shout again to Speakly for sponsoring this video. You can check them out at the link below. And it has been a long week here in Las Vegas at CES. And so I'm exhausted. Good night, everybody.
Planes, very loud planes.